Today I want to talk about a historic number in video game console sales that recently received an update and tackle the question on whether or not Nintendo can now cross that goalpost as the best-selling video game console of all time, period. You might be well aware of where the Nintendo Switch now sits today at 139 million total units moved in the Switch's life cycle. It would need to cross previously thought to be 155 million units sold for the PlayStation 2, but Jim Ryan, on his way out as the CEO of Sony, actually made a statement confirming that that was a lower number than what they sold at the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle. Over the years, it continued to kind of sell, and we never really had hard data on that. And you can see this article, which outlines the updated data over on My Nintendo News, which reads, Jim Ryan now says Sony's PlayStation 2 is at 160 million units sold. Former head of PlayStation Jim Ryan has provided updated sales numbers for the best-selling video game console, the PlayStation 2, which was released in 2000. Ryan, speaking in a new PlayStation podcast episode dedicated to him, says that the popular console has shifted 160 million units since launch. It is the platform that Nintendo has been aiming to beat with the Nintendo Switch family of systems, which has sold 139.36 million units worldwide as of December 31st, 2023. So it has to go a little bit further now, all the way to 160 million units. But the one thing I'd like to point out is we are in year 7, well, technically the 8th year of sales, but it's been a full 7 years of the Nintendo Switch being sold and available, and them being at 139 million units right now with no price drop, mind you, is actually a very big deal. This is obviously a wildfire success of a console for Nintendo, with them doing something different yet again, but this time tackling the idea of hybrid gameplay. You can play at home on a television. You can also pick up that same console and take it with you on the go and have close to the same experience in a game. There are definitely some specific games that struggle in handheld play where they do better in docked mode, but for the most part, you're able to play Tears of the Kingdom entirely on a handheld console, a massive open world AAA Zelda game that looks incredible on portable hardware, which is really incredible that Nintendo was as ahead of its time as it was with the Switch. Now you're seeing a lot of competitors to the Switch in the PC side of things, especially with the Steam Deck, and then also Asus ROG Ally, amongst many others. There's a lot of different variants you can look at now that are essentially handheld PCs with a screen, but I do think Nintendo can get there to that 160 million unit number with the Switch. We know that it's harder for them to hit the big sales years like it used to be, upwards of 20 million plus selling in a single year. Now we're looking more in the realm of 13 to 15 million units in a year. But again, as I pointed out, there has yet to ever be a price cut for any system on the Nintendo Switch. We, of course, today have the Nintendo Switch Lite sold at $199, the lowest price point. We might see a refresh on a Lite model. I wouldn't rule that out. Nintendo might decide to do a Lite Edition OLED model and just keep it at the same price. Who knows? Maybe they won't, because the Lite, I don't think, is sold incredibly well. It's obviously missing the docked feature of the Nintendo Switch, but it is a much lower price point to enter the console ecosystem. Then, of course, you have the base model Switch, which is $299 right now in the US, and then you have the OLED model at $349. So Nintendo still has some play with those numbers. I'd be willing to bet that the OLED or the base model Switch could easily be discounted by $50 full at any point in time. And if they do that around the holiday season with some of the bundles that we've seen them do in more recent years, like throwing in Smash Bros with the box, throwing in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that they've done pretty much since the beginning of time with the Switch, or certain Mario bundles they were doing over in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, you got to pick what Mario game you wanted from the franchise with about 4 or 5 different choices that you could choose in terms of which Mario game you wanted to redeem. I think if we saw a significant enough price cut and we saw Nintendo do some bundle discounts with games included, they can definitely shift the needle for a few more years to get up to that 160 million. We are literally just about 20 million units away from that at the time of filming in 2024, early 2024 at that. We're not expecting Nintendo to actually launch Switch 2 until early 2025, according to many of the internal delay reports, that once it was planned for holiday season this year, now that's shifted to maybe March time next year, just like they did with the Switch launch in that same time window for the launch of the console. That gives Nintendo plenty of time to continue to sell the current family of systems, and I think if they do a price drop, this should be a slam dunk for them to actually walk away historically with the best-selling console of all time ever. I would like to also tackle the possibility of Nintendo not accomplishing this goal, because there is a world where sales might just be at that tipping point where there is just less market interest in this thing than ever. They maybe don't meet the Switch family of systems with any kind of notable price decrease or price cut on the consoles, and maybe they don't do any kind of bundles around the holiday season with the price cuts, and really there's just a lack of interest in this console. And when Nintendo Switch 2 launches, Nintendo's obviously going to market the heck out of that thing and make it their new flagship product. And does there still exist enough support from a software perspective for anybody to really go get a Switch and treat it as a new console that will still have some games coming out for it at some point in time? Or will it just truly decline like we see consoles do when they've essentially become the predecessor to what the new current hot item is? And that is a very real possibility as well. I just think that the Switch momentum right now, if you look at month in, month out sales results from Japan, UK, and even in the US, when we get those updates from NPD and all of that stuff, it's still selling really well. It has not really fallen off of that true cliff where we're just seeing a stark decline. New units of the Switch are still being moved, just not at the volume that they once were. But I am still betting on Nintendo likely walking away with that historic crown for the Nintendo Switch specifically, that it will one day cross 160 million units sold, especially if they pull some of those levers that they still have available to them, such as price cuts and bundled game software in with these new consoles, especially around the holiday season where general consumers are doing all of their big Christmas gift shopping anyway. So I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, where you land on if you think Nintendo Switch will go down as the best selling console of all time ever. You think it's a shoe-in result for Nintendo and they will definitely cross the 160? Or do you think that it will be something that it might get close but not get quite there? And do you think the Switch 2 or the successor to the Switch will have a similar type of sales momentum to what we saw with Nintendo Switch? Or do you think it will be still a popular console, but maybe not the lightning in a bottle that was the Nintendo Switch from 2017 to 2025? But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.